Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3. As today, we dig a bit deeper into the local druid situation. Obviously, our interactions with Kago last time around left a bit to be desired, but she was not the only person we came here to see. So we might still have a Nett success.
How much farther can I go?
I see you. Just give me a moment.
Of course. Is there anything I can do to help?
A moment. This medicatrix. There. It's up to her now. Life or death. Now, what was it you needed?
I'm looking for a woman named Nettie.
You found her, but I still don't know what she can do for you.
To be honest, I was hoping you could help me find Halsin. I have need of his services.
You and every other soul here. I can help if something's wrong. I'm no Master Halsin, but I can manage.
I suppose it's worth a shot. Tell me then, do you know anything about mind flayers?
Why are you asking?
Oh boy. I guess there's no point in holding back if we're hoping she can heal us. Which, let's be honest. She's not going to be able to. They wouldn't make it that easy. But, still. No sense in mincing words. They put something in my head.
A tadpole? A mind flayer tadpole?
That would seem to be the case, yes. So you're familiar with them, then?
I'll do what I can. Come, follow me. I might be able to help. We need to be quick. This way.
Goes against my nature to leave all this stuff in our tail lights, but...
Head on in.
Story first. Shameless looting second.
This one had the same problem as you. Attacked us in the woods together with some goblins. Tadpole crawled out of his head soon after.
You think it's related? This drow had the same infection I do?
Seems so. Gave Master Halsin a right start. It's why he joined the adventurers on their expedition. To find out what was happening. A pity you got me instead of him. He understands these things. Studied them. Still, we have options. You don't have to be here for this.
Please, don't mind me. I'll just watch.
All right. Let's see what we can do.
A bit odd she's trying to shoo off our friends, but... well, Asterion. Thank you. I'm grateful for your assistance.
Of course. Now, tell me what's been happening. Any symptoms? Strange events?
Well, I have found that I can merge my consciousness with the minds of other infected. That does seem slightly unusual.
Victims can identify each other. Not that the others know they're victims, of course. How'd you pick up the parasite? Halsin was desperate to find where all this was happening.
If I had to guess, I'd say it was... when I was kidnapped by mind flayers and held on their ship. You know, the one that just crashed on the beach.
A mind flayer ship? But Master Halsin was sure. Look, you've been straight with me, so I'll be straight with you. You're dangerous. If you transform here, we're all dead. But you seem like a good soul. You deserve a chance to save yourself. This is a vial of wyvern poison. Swear to me, you'll swallow it if you feel any symptoms.
I'm sorry, I thought we were trying to cure my condition. What happened to the branch?
The thorn? Coated in a fatal toxin. It was a last resort, in case I couldn't trust you. I don't have a cure. Only a way out. I'm sorry for misleading you, but I had to be sure you weren't a threat before I told you everything. Now, do I have your word or not?
I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's not the solution I was hoping for, but it is an option. Yes, if it comes down to it, I suppose you have my word.
I hope it doesn't come to that, but thank you. Here. You know, I've spent my life treating folk and never once saw a mind flayer infection. Then suddenly, there's dozens of you. Maybe more. Master Halsin and I were tracking them, studying them, trying to figure out what the hells was going on. Because you should all be changing. There should be a small army of mind flayers out there. But you're not. Weird powers aside, you seem perfectly normal.
Do I? I can't say there are many who would describe me that way, but... What did you mean by should be changing? How does this normally work?
Mind flayers reproduce by infecting someone with their parasite. 7 gruesome days later, the victim transforms and a new mind flayer is born. The thing in your skull, though? It's different to anything in our records. It's one of their worms for sure. But this one gives you powers. Telepathic connections. And it doesn't turn you into one of them. Not yet, anyhow.
I see, that's, good news, I suppose. You mentioned you were tracking other victims. Have any of them changed?
Hard to say, but there's a lot we don't know. Infected, folks like you, have been converging on an old temple of Selûne, and I've no idea why. When Master Halsin heard the adventurers were heading that way, he saw a chance to get answers, joined on the spot. Whatever he found there, he didn't make it back.
Interesting. So things are slowly starting to fall into place, though, I mean, obviously we still have like 1,000 questions. But the short of it seems to be that we've got mind flayers trying to carry out some sort of plot to create this cult of the Absolute. They're kidnapping people en masse and planting them with these new tadpoles that just sort of slow boil in the back of the brain, but create like a telepathic hive mind or something similar. The question being, of course, why do we then still have independence? With the obvious answer, I suppose, being that we probably escaped before they could finish whatever process was required to fully loop us in. There's also the question of where the Harpers fit in, and that cult of Selûne, but I suppose those might be unrelated. So what do you think we should do?
The thing is, I've sent birds to find him, but the place is rotten with goblins. None of us can even get close. You, though, you're one of them. Technically speaking, I mean. They won't kill someone carrying their parasite. If you can find Halsin and get him out of there, we can discover what he learned. And perhaps he can save your life. How's that sound?
All right, given that my alternative seems to be fatally poisoning myself, yes. I will do everything in my power to find Halsin. I mean, I was going to do that anyway, but this gives me more incentive.
Thank you. It would mean everything to the Grove. To me. I wish I could tell you more. But only those adventurers know what happened out there. All I can say for sure is they all went to the old temple of Selûne. And Master Halsin didn't make it back. Good luck out there. And if things start to go bad, remember the vial. Remember your oath.
Step at a time, Nettie. Come on.
Wyvern poison. Never tried it, and I hope to keep it that way.
Better a quick draft than Ceramorphosis, nonetheless.
Better than becoming a mind flayer. Keep it, in case things start to go very wrong.
Yeah, I'll do that. It actually doesn't seem all that strong, but I guess it'll get the job done. Okay, well, our meeting with Nettie was a bit of a bust, but at least we got some more intel. Let's see what else this stuff can tell us.
There's something in that vessel. Take a closer look.
Is that so? I don't suppose you'd like to be more specific, mysterious narrator? There are several vessels here. But I'm guessing you mean the one that highlights when I push the highlight button. Mind Flayer Parasite Specimen. Rare. Hanging suspended in murky slime, the living tadpole looks like some hideous cousin to the slug, only gorged and slick with remnants of brain fluid. Still living. Interesting. Shoot, I was really hoping to avoid stealing things while we were here. That gets messy quick. But this does seem important. Yeah, alright. We'll just hope she doesn't notice. So what do we actually do with this thing? Apparently we can consume it, which feels like a bad idea for several reasons. But it is certainly an option. Let's see if we can find some context, maybe. Oh, here we go. Drow's letter. Orders taken from the body of a Drow scout. They're written in an elegant, if angry, hand. Track the druid. Find whatever burrow he runs to, and report back to me. Remember, you are only a scout. Do not engage. Do not kill anyone. Simply observe and return. I shall decide what we do next. M. Interesting. You would think if they had a hive mind, they wouldn't need written instructions like that, but I guess they have some semblance of independence as well. Halsin's Journal, Volume 1. Extraordinary happenings. While meditating in the forest, Nettie and I were ambushed by a pack of goblins, led by a drow. We had no choice but to defend ourselves. But that is not the extraordinary, or rather disturbing part. On the drow's death, a parasitic creature emerged from the corpse and attempted to escape. I managed to capture it and have the host's cadaver here in my study. I've told no one my fears. Nettie suspects, but knows better than to ask. I will investigate further before informing the others. Kaga will demand answers I don't yet have. I had better record any further findings in a separate volume, and keep them upon my person, lest prying eyes jump to the wrong conclusions. So, pre-existing tensions between him and Kaga. Intriguing. Notes on Drow Parasite. Anatomical sketches of both a drow and an elithid tadpole are accompanied by notes written in an urgent scribble. The parasite was nestled deep in the brain matter, elithid undoubtedly, yet the host seemed unaware while alive? No visible signs of ceramorphosis on the cadaver. Most strange. The final note is a single underlined word. Altered?
Looks like Halsin's our best bet for a cure.
Okay, so they do retain independence.
Time to track him down and see what he knows.
Assuming he's still alive.
Speculation will get us nowhere. Let's go find him.
Maybe the neural network is just designed to make people more susceptible to influence, as opposed to outright controlling them. My dear Nettie, I entrust with you the circlet to open the library. Wear it always. If you need to enter the vault, talk to Wrath. He has the rune, but won't give it to anyone, so be sure you have a good reason to ask. Protect my research while I'm gone, and take care of the animals. Don't give fish to Tuffet. She's getting lazy. Master Halson. A vault, you say? Also, it's a shame we don't have Speak with Dead spell. Otherwise we could question this guy, too. If he did retain some degree of independence, I'm sure he'd have some interesting things to say, now that he's been separated from his uninvited guest. We're also not going to worry about the shelves. I mean, I'm sure there's interesting lore books on them, but for the sake of brevity, we'll just stay focused on the things that pop up with highlighting. Though that does kill me. I really want to read those lore books. I'll tell you what. Let me know what you guys think about whether or not I should read other random lore books. I'll be more than happy to do it, but I also understand if folks want me to stay focused on just progressing the story. In Ketherick, I see our failures made manifest. He did not fall. He was pushed. His grief was twisted by shadow. And still, we did not act until his light was all but snuffed. Huh. I have no idea who Ketherick is, so that doesn't really give me a lot of context.
What's that?
What's what? I have no idea what you're... Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, you know what? That must be the vault. We won't mess with that just yet. We'll chat with Wrath first. Sightings record. A long list of owlbear sightings in the region, separated by date. The latest entry, written a 10-day ago, says, Cub. The word is underlined several times. Okay. Again, not a lot of context there, but I guess that tells us there are owlbears in the area. Certainly something to look forward to, I suppose. And I guess that's it. Let's see what we've got out here. Illusory door? Bug? Hard to say. Druid Notebook. This is an ancient notebook whose ink is faded and pages are starting to crumble. It's not easy, but some words can still be made out. Ketherick is finished, but it cost us the land. Darkness has fallen, corruption is everywhere. Chased by shadows picking us off, druids and harpers alike. Our wounded were safe. I returned, searching for survivors. Lost, but I found his shade. I put it to rest and took his glaive. Blade infused with shadow. I have locked it away to serve as a reminder that even victory can taste bitter. A shadowed glaive, you say? Certainly not something we'll end up encountering in our travels.
Just want my bed.
Though that does at least give us more context on Ketherick. Oral Histories of Faerun. The Spell Plague. This book is comprised of several chapters, one for each cited source. It claims to contain first-hand transcriptions of the oral histories of several storytellers throughout the realm. Chapter 25. Cornelius and Tomelius Worthywart. Halflings encountered on the Golden Road south of Innerlith. I met the brothers, or rather they found me, in the lower pass through the Firesheer Mountains. They had encountered a trail of golden discs along the path, and had resolved to gather and return them to whatever fool had more coin than common sense. It was to our mutual embarrassment, then, that I removed my cloak to reveal my patchwork yellow hide. It was molting season, I explained, and a traveler on the road had not the luxury to shed their scales in private, as would be proper. I suspect they knew too little of Dragonborn to be appropriately disgusted, and instead invited me to sup with them. Over a roadside fire, I learned of the purpose behind their journey.
No.
Larian, my lad, our ancestral home. It was lost during the spell plague. Weren't nothing lost, Khan. It's not Nan's Lucky Nashers, is it? It sank. Wasn't I there when the blue fire took it? Sure, what do you remember? You were knee-high to a gnome. I remember you crying. Maybe it was you that sank the place. Going back to finish the job? Watch that lip, lest I fatten it. Only a fool speaks ill of his homeland. Their brows were bristling dangerously, and so I diverted hostilities by speaking of my own people's ancestral home, the blighted world of Abir, and the 1,000-year tyranny of dragons we lived under, until the blue fire of the spell plague brought us to this world. Right, another potato? A little more abstract than I like, but that seems to be some fun nods to, I think, the 4th edition lore? The point where they first introduced Dragonborn and other similar races to the Faerun setting. Definitely not my area of expertise. I really kind of stopped tracking the lore after 3rd edition.
Take it one step at a time.
And I'm fairly certain the spell plague was primarily 4th edition and onward.
Devil child, one who tried to steal from us.
I do find it interesting that the highlighting in this room seems much more prevalent than in most other rooms. A lot of earmarked containers, though, I imagine they just contain generic loot. I may take Asterion off his leash later, just to be sure. On antidotes. Part 2 of the Basics of Alchemy series by Haskin Zasilifin, a D-scale dragonborn who lived a life of difficult pain and commendable selflessness. A deep crease in the spine makes the booklet fall open to reveal one recipe in particular. Neat writing in the corner marks it as an antidote for all known potions. This is it, the recipe that made me decide to publish my notes. The story might not interest you, but I shall record it for posterity. Feel free to skip to the actual recipe. I was sitting in the elf song, sipping my usual hot cocoa, the heat soothing the pain in my scaleless hands. A small child, human, stumbled through the door, sick as a dog. All the other patrons seemed like they wanted to help, but nobody could pay for an antidote for a stranger's child. Meanwhile, the ingredients were just lying around in the kitchen. Every single one of these people could have saved that child. But only I knew how. It felt like a crime. Recipe for 1 bottle of antidote. Extracts needed: salts of mugwort, suspension of bullywug trumpet. Method: slowly trickle salt into suspension. Stir clockwise until the concoction's consistency turns almost chewable. It might turn slightly green, but this is purely aesthetic, and has no effect on the antidote itself. And then the wrap breakdown. It's always got to fit that in there somewhere. That actually kind of tickles me, the thought that Zesifin always wanted to be a rapper or something, but just couldn't get away from that darn alchemy career. Such is the curse of the academic, I suppose. I guess we could check this door out real quick.
What a day. Careful, I bite. Go.
Yeah, Nettie seems pretty stationary, so in theory we should be safe. We'll pick the lock, get a peek inside.
I can't even see a lock to pick.
Oh, or not. Right. The hastily written note did mention there was a magic circlet we needed. Or the key that Wrath is carrying.
No one back home will ever.
Either way, we don't have access to it, but,
Can't slow down.
Let's check the other room real quick. We'll see if we can maybe find some other way to access what's behind that door. And if not, we'll just have a follow-up chat with Nettie and
The
Wrath.
ritual's almost finished.
What if they tried to steal from us? Again?
We've shown them once. We take RovLore seriously.
The Rite of Thorns. Well, that certainly sounds important. Interwoven prayers and incantations snake across one side of the page. Written on the other are instructions for performing the Rite of Thorns. When the prayer is complete, thorns and brambles rise from the earth, protecting from harm all who chanted it. Ooh. The Rite of Thorns is dangerous magic. Why is Kaga so determined to do this? We should investigate. Indeed. I mean, I was already investigating, but it is good to have some direction. The real issue here being that pretty much everything inside this room is owned, and the game does tend to really overreact when you start messing with owned objects. But here goes nothing. We'll have Asterion do the deed. Maintain plausible deniability. The Elder Circle doth decree the greatest tenets, number 3. 1. The natural order must be preserved no matter its form. 2. Forces that would disrupt the natural order must be destroyed. 3. The Emerald Enclave must offer aid to the weary and injured. I mean, right off the bat there, it's pretty obvious Kaga is not abiding by those tenets.
Into the shadows.
Grove Artifacts. The tablet catalogs various magical artifacts of druidic nature. One particular entry has been outlined. Idol of Sylvanas. A ritual relic formed from the wood and resin of an oak touched by the Forest Father himself. Pray to it quietly to reap Sylvanas' blessings, and commune with nature. Below the entry, a chalk note snakes across the stone. So much more! More power! More power! Rite of Thorns! And again, feeling awfully power-hungry for a druid. Though, as has been pointed out by some of my viewers, druids in 5th edition are not required to be neutral, which is a very foreign concept to me, but sure, why not? On the subject of Gond and progress. Benji, enough is enough. I am sick and tired of hearing about your precious Emerald Enclave. They claim to be allies of the people of Faerun, that they fight to balance civilization and nature in a chaotic world. But this is lies. They are enemies of progress, of intellect, who would be happiest if the world reverted to a time of outdoor privies and knuckle-dragging proto-folk. Please visit me at the High House of Wonders in Baldur's Gate. The things I have learned during my apprenticeship are simply, well, wondrous. There's the water pumps. No more back-breaking work for a simple bucket of water. A steam-powered oxen that can drive your wagon for days on end. Even the sledder. It was transcribed and printed by our newest mechanized printing press. I had a little fun and printed several copies just for the sake of it. Please, brother, I cannot bear the thought of coming home to find you picking berries out of a tree and arguing with Mother and Father about whether or not their crops impede on fox territory. Right back soon, all right? And don't forget, Dad's birthday is next month. Love, Abigail. I don't think we've met any druids named Benny, so it's hard to say how up-to-date that letter is. It might be something older, but I mean, it does track. That is in keeping with the journal we read earlier about how the druids were actively preventing progress in the name of maintaining balance, which, I mean, druids, yeah. That's kind of their thing. What else have we got here? We've got a lot of containers, but I don't want to go rummaging through all of them if I don't have to. Oh, okay, well that looks promising. Thank goodness Kaga's vain enough to put her name on one of these things. That does make this easier.
Stay low.
It also helps that it's tucked out of the way. That really minimizes the chances of someone stumbling across us while we're messing with it. Basically, this game uses a 3-strike system. You have a chance to avoid getting in trouble the first 2 times you're seen messing with stuff like this. But if you fail one of those checks, or you hit strike 3, whole place turns hostile. Super fun. Which is why I'm so leery of messing with anything marked in red. Alright, let's move to a safe distance, then we'll give these things a look.
Let's go.
Have a lot on my mind and, well, in it. Wonder if the gods are watching me.
This will all be over. The ritual's almost finished.
What if they tried to steal from us? The game. We've shown by letting that child escape without consequence.
Half-torn note. A scrap of paper lined with furtive, looping notes. The marks crisscrossing the page don't look scribed so much as slashed. Kaga. Swamp docks. Tree. Meet me. Alone. Oladan. Oh. And level up. Wow, here I thought this was a slower episode, but apparently we did enough to hit level 3. Not too shabby. Faldorn's Canticle, the Shadow Druid's Doctrine. This aged tome's corners are mossy and alive with tiny insects. The book's spine is limber from overuse. The corner of one page is folded inwards. Balance is a myth. Where any clan treads, nature struggles. Unity is a fiction. Men of mere flesh seek only to tame beast and raise flora. We are the thunder, and we are the rain. We shatter mankind, and grow new life in its place. Well, I've got to say that sounds awfully incompatible with the Emerald Enclave's tenets. Secrets of the Shadow Druids. Gale has become inspired. Well, good for him. Though we will take that plus 25 XP. Which isn't really compatible with the whole XP sharing system, but who's counting? Okay, so the implication here is that Kaga is one of these shadow druids, and that would certainly explain her much harsher, more scorched earth approach to leading the grove. So I suppose our best bet is to chat with other druids, see if we can get them turned around to our side. Though our journal is explicitly saying we should go investigate the drop point in the swamp. Right, yeah, it's saying it on the thing with Zevlor, too. Alright, fair enough. I'm guessing we'll find some sort of incriminating evidence or something out there. Something to prove that she's up to no good. Though, obviously, rescuing Halsin would also presumably defuse the situation. Assuming, of course, that we can actually get him back alive. Which I have heard is problematic. Apparently it's one of the more notorious bugs in the current build. And then aside from that, we just have a couple of companion quests. The ruins to the east. I would like to investigate Karlach. I mean, I know she's a recruitable character. So that's obviously something I'd like to do sooner rather than later. I just don't want to stray too far from the grove until I'm sure we're done here. That said, we've got a level up in the queue, so we should really take care of that before we do anything else, given this game's steep curve. We'll hit the pause button real quick, I'll take a gander at our options, and we'll be right back. And we are back. The level ups are pretty straightforward. It's mostly just picking spells, so let's jam through this real quick. First up, we've got Auric. He gains hit points, he gains a new spell, and his spells become stronger. As far as our new spell goes, obviously we're going straight for Detect Thoughts. As aforementioned, I would like to collect all 3 of the lore-gathering skills as quickly as possible. Detect Thoughts, Speak with Animals, and Speak with Dead. Though I will say, it has come to my attention that apparently my original plan is somewhat unworkable, because the Observant feat, for whatever reason, didn't make it into the launch build. And unfortunately, that is the only feat, aside from Resistance, that allows you to boost your Wisdom by +1 point. I wouldn't have set it at an auto mount if I'd known that going in. It is somewhat problematic, but worst case scenario, I'll respec as needed. Wiggle points around so we can get everything evened out by level 8. As far as Pact Boon goes, unfortunately there's not really much of a choice here. I was anticipating Pact of the Tome, but it comes with a preset loadout as opposed to letting you choose your own cantrips, which makes it a very limited use to me. And then we're not really set up for Pact of the Blade, so yeah, I guess we'll have to go the same route we did in EA, which is Pact of the Chain. Not the most exciting perk, but it is another warm body during fights. And as we've seen, that can make a pretty significant difference. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and conjure up our new pal. I will say, it does feel slightly odd to have a demonic tag-along for our ostensibly good Dragonborn. Though, I guess it makes sense. It is provided by our inscrutable patron, after all. And as for Shadowheart, not much to say here. More health, more spells, more domain stuff, which honestly I don't really care about. About the only thing that we really have to decide here is our new spell loadout. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and change this all out to a support package. We've got 2 other casters in the party, Auric on offense and Gale on utility, so best to keep Shadowheart focused on damage control. Not that it really matters, I suppose. We can swap spells out as needed between fights. For Asterion. He gets his subclass, which he has very presumptuously chosen as Arcane Trickster. Not necessarily a bad choice, but definitely redundant in a party where we've already got 2 dedicated arcane casters. So we will not go that route. And while Assassin might be more fitting for someone like him, it's largely useless after the first round of combat. So I am instead leaning Thief, since while it is somewhat boring, that extra bonus action is pretty fantastic. That adds a lot of tactical utility to a character. That's an extra thrown object, an extra shove, an extra dash or hide for rogues. So yeah, I find that the most appealing of our 3 options. Which brings us to Gale. And again, not really a lot in the way of choices here. He gains more health, more spells. And in his case, because he's a wizard, we can just scribe spells from scrolls, so there's a lot less weight on our choices here. But for the sake of utility, I was thinking Misty Step. That's great for mobility, exploration, and emergency evac. And then 1 offense spell, so we can really leverage that evocation specialization. I was thinking Shatter, the poor man's fireball. Not the most exciting option, but with spell shaping we can drop that right on top of our party during melee. Hit all the enemies while sparing our allies. Though, that said, there were other spells that caught my eye. They just didn't end up leveraging his class abilities, so I felt like they were a slightly lower priority. But I am open to suggestions there. And honestly, this looks fine to me. Side note, you do have to keep Find Familiar slotted to actually cast it. And that's it. We're now level 3. Nothing there that really helps us with our current town adventure aside from maybe detect thoughts, but still good to get it off our plate. That's it. Let's tie up some loose ends.
Any word on Master Halsin?
Okay, so nothing about Keys or Kaga.
Please hurry, for both your sakes.
Of course. You said he went to the west?
He and the adventurers were headed to the ruined temple in the west. Master Halsin studied that drow for days, and he was sure something at the temple could help his research. I'm praying he was right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty sure bet.
What if Halsin is... No. Don't go there.
How about you, Berto? You got anything for me?
Please. I'm resting.
You're injured. What happened?
The bird says nothing. Trying to rest.
Fair. Sorry, I'll leave you be. Do we actually have anything that can cure exhausted?
I don't want blood on my hands.
We have the right to defend our home.
We did just pick up Lesser Restoration.
Kill a bunch of innocents.
Should be here somewhere.
But I won't let this grove be harmed. Not again.
Okay, no, that does not cure exhaustion. But it does cure paralysis. We'll have to make one other quick stop before we wrap things up today.
What to do?
But sadly, there's nothing we can do for our bird friend, so we'll leave him be. Let's go have a quick chat with Wrath. See if he has anything to say about Kaga or the vault.
I wish I could offer more assistance. For now, I must keep a close watch on Korga. I hope to see both you and Halsin again soon.
He does not. Interesting.
Ridiculous. We just let her run off.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't expect him to act on the minimal information we've uncovered thus far. But I was at least expecting him to have a line about still needing to rescue Halsin or wanting to see that evidence before he'd be willing to do something. Feels like an oversight, really. Okay, let's go to follow up with Arabella. She's right here.
You ever scare me like that again, and I'll feed you to a knoll.
Mom, I'm fine. Stop it.
Our little Hellion told us what happened. Thank you. Don't know what we'd do without her.
Yeah, well, maybe keep an eye on her from now on, but happy to help. Hopefully the next time we meet will be under better circumstances.
Likewise. Arabella?
Thank you for helping me.
Bells, it's
Hey,
our job to get us out of
nice.
here safely. Not yours.
I do wish I could
It's my job
understand
too.
you.
The druids don't care about us. No one does. We have to look after ourselves. That's what Mole says.
That girl. I don't care what Mole says. That was stupid and reckless.
Alright, so we got Chimera's Locket. A magic amulet that grants dancing lights. Worked carefully into the locket's metal back are the words, "Never dark again." I mean, dancing lights can be useful. The problem is, if it requires concentration, there are just much better things we could be using concentration for. Yep, there it is. Sadly, that makes it completely useless to us. Though it is useful item fodder for Gale, so we'll just keep that set aside. A tragic fate for the family heirloom we were gifted in exchange for rescuing a child.
Quiet, you pup.
Let's go have a chat with Zevlor. Let him know what's going on.
Is that everything? I think that's everything.
Don't be grumpy, Roland. We'll get to the city soon.
I am not grumpy. Scowl on your face would frighten a troll. You're an idiot.
Yeah, we definitely didn't come in here before. We'll poke around while we're here. Zevlor?
I heard what happened. Thank you for protecting the child. If the druids are this far gone, then it's not just goblins we have to fear. So we can risk violence here, or face it for certain on the road. Quite the choice, isn't it?
I will admit, it's not ideal. But things rarely are, especially where adventure is concerned. I do have some other potential leads to pursue, but I'll need time. Do you think you can delay the ritual?
You saw what they were willing to do to a child just for trying. It's Kagorm's influence. Without her twisting things, I believe the druids might see sense.
Oh, good. Locked into a binary choice between murder Kaga or run away. I feel like there's slightly more granular options available to us, but... sure. Well, again, I have other leads to pursue, but should it come down to it, I can help you and your people get to Baldur's Gate.
It's good of you to offer, but there's a whole army of goblins out there. We'd need an army of our own to escort us safely to Baldur's Gate. And while I don't doubt your abilities, you're no army. There may be a way, though. Goblins are ill-disciplined. It's unlike them to organize so cleverly.
Somebody must be leading them, bringing discipline to their ranks. Take out that leadership, and they'll scatter.
It's no small thing to ask, but I've seen you fight. You're equal to the task.
Okay, now see, that I can work with. Assassinating Kaga on mere suspicions is one thing, but taking out the leader of a horde of murderous goblins is another entirely. Though, of course, we'll still want to investigate before we commit. I'll see what I can do.
Everyone in this camp depends on it. Thank you. We'll be ready to leave as soon as you give word.
We really need to cut Asterion loose.
But if there's a clear path past those goblins, they'll find it.
Yes. Of course.
Sis?
You're the one who helped at the gate. Glad to have another sword. We might need it.
All right. And once again, we've got a ton of owned objects, but we can at least read a few things. A Traveler's Guide to Baldur's Gate. Variety is the blood of the city itself, for better or worse. The devoted will find a place to worship, the dedicated will find work to be done. And let it be fully understood by any who wish to visit. The criminal enterprises in Baldur's Gate thrive as heartily as the rest. Thank you for that incredibly vague and generic overview. Clearly the hallmarks of a well-written travel guide. The Risen Road. The stained, well-thumbed pages are filled with traveling advice that seems to be decades out of date. Those who seek to journey to the coast from the interior regions lying to the east will typically seek out the Risen Road. Running parallel to the river Chianthar, the Risen Road provides an overland route all the way from Elturel to Baldur's Gate, and has proven tempting to travelers seeking an alternate to the river barges that sail the Chianthar. A portion of the road approximately halfway between Elturel and Baldur's Gate has in recent years developed into an enclave for Saloon worship, with a temple of not insignificant splendor lying near the road. Indeed, an entire village, Moonhaven, has developed alongside the temple, and can provide food and shelter to weary travelers. Farther to the east lies the citadel of Moonrise Towers, where a toll is required for onward passage of goods and folk alike. Some are tempted to go off-road in order to avoid the toll. However, bandits and other dangers may cause them to pay a much steeper price. Yes, that does seem slightly out of date, considering that both the church and the village are now held by goblins.
We're civilians now, remember?
With respect, sir, being a Hellrider is for life. They can't take...
They can, and did. Avernus changed things. Best we get used to that.
Yes. Zephlor.
Invasion plans for Elturgard.
Elturgard. A lot of territory to cover before Baldur's Gate. And any cure found there.
An aging map of Elturgard and its surroundings. The cities of Baldur's Gate and Elturel are both marked, but it's the wilderness in between that's covered in notes, symbols, and ciphers. The freshest ink marks pictographs of goblins and gnolls, shown gathering in the forests and hills nearby. Front and Center, a Thespian's Memoir. In fact, the greatest joy in my life hasn't been acting, but becoming. When you choose a character to play, you don't just wear a mask. You take a little of their soul for your own. Whoever you are in your heart of hearts changes, if only by the faintest mote. I've got to say, one of the things on this table doesn't seem quite like the others. On the origin of the Zhentarim. An excerpt from the ongoing metatext, Rebound, by Iosefa Elgin, a scholar excommunicated from the Church of Denier for her heretical efforts to reconstruct the metatext, her god's annal of lost and hidden knowledge. But perhaps greater still than their monopoly as the continent's largest private army, the true achievement of the modern Zhentarim is in the sanitized image they present to the world. Viewed by most as an efficient, if unscrupulous, mercenary organization, few would guess at the Black Network's dark origin, as a cult dedicated to the dark god Bane, once bent towards bringing all peoples to heel beneath his creed of tyranny and domination. Many among their ranks scoff when confronted with this fact, citing overblown conspiracies and reassuring me that the only gods to whom the Zhentarim give worship today are the twin deities, Prophet and Power. This is not to say the organization has entirely shed its dark side, however. Alongside the clenched fist of their military, another hand works from the shadows to ensure that the network prospers even in peacetime. For just as vital as the movement of troops is the movement of goods, legal or otherwise, and there is no border or market that is ever truly closed to one bearing the seal of the Black Network. Scary, scary. And yeah, pretty much guaranteed we're going to have to deal with them at some point. Elminster and the Red Wizards of Thay are also pretty much guaranteed. The Devil You Know, an autobiography. Have you ever had a god change your blood? It is a horrifying thing, even for those who may desire it. Yet few tieflings wished for Asmodeus to claim their bodies, only to be given no choice in the matter. It is not as if we were well loved before the Archdevil's gambit. Our people have always struggled against the notion of devilkin, as if a single drop of infernal ichor inescapably corrupts. How amusing when so many others willingly sell their souls to fiends, yet their culture as a whole escapes the blame. By what method can we redeem ourselves when the crime is not ours? I would drive a blade into every warlock that aided Asmodeus's damned ritual. But personal vengeance cannot undo the will of a god, much less one as slippery as the Lord of Lies. When every passerby thinks you a thief and heretic, it is deeply tempting to become one. The only thing that has stopped me is knowing Asmodeus wants nothing more than for all of us to fall from grace. Interesting. Not particularly relevant to anything we're doing here, though it might have been if we had been a warlock of the fiend. Again, much like the Spell Plague, that's kind of just a nod to 4th edition lore and onwards. The introduction of tieflings as a normalized player option for a race. They technically existed prior to that, but they were much rarer. Something you would find in the monster manual as opposed to the player's handbook. In fact, I want to say back in the old days, tieflings looked a lot less humanoid than they are now. I mean, they were still humanoid, but they had much less human-like bodies. They had like the weird extended ankles with cloven hooves and everything. Much longer, lankier, demon-like frames, more resembling their infernal forebears. Apparently normalizing them in 4th edition just really smoothed out their appearances, so, good for them. Ladder zone, so I guess we're not going out that way. Alright, one more quick stop, and then I think we're done. Side note, you know what the progression of tieflings actually makes me think of is the beast races in Elder Scrolls, Argonians and Khajiit. Back in the day, they were so inhuman they couldn't even wear hats or shoes. And then fast forward to Skyrim, where they're basically just humans with weird-shaped heads and poorly placed tails. How you holding up?
If this isn't the most boring post in the Grove, I don't know what is.
Right. Well, maybe this will help.
My legs! I can stand again! Did you do that? Thank you. Look, you're not really supposed to be here, but I'll turn a blind eye. Just don't touch anything, all right?
Huh. Well, I was hoping for slightly more than that, but fair enough. Honestly, I'm just impressed we could do that at all.
Let them come.
Oh, and right back onto the floor she goes.
I'm ready.
You having some trouble there?
Look, between us, you're not... Just don't touch it.
Right. I'm going. Pretty sure I already touched everything worth touching anyway. Oh, but you know what we should do is go have another quick chat with Arabella. I think we only talked to her once. As a general rule of thumb, it's a good idea to talk to everyone twice in this game, just to make sure you're not missing anything.
Ugh. I'm never gonna hear the end of this. If I'd got that stupid idol, I'd be a hero.
Is that so? And what kind of hero did you think you would be?
A heroic thief? Mum? Dad? Mole? They all would have been so impressed. Mole said we had to do something, because the old folks weren't doing anything. They were talking when the druids were getting ready to throw us out. Why can't we just stay in until it's safe?
Stealing the idol? What were you thinking?
I was trying to help.
Take your eyes off my hand.
You nearly died. Did you hear me? What would your mother and I have done?
And not much, but that got us a new name drop. Mole. Yet another player in the increasingly tangled drama of the Druid's Grove. That's it. We're well past time, but I feel like this is a natural stopping point. We've gotten a much better picture of what's going on here.
Yes, I see.
Though, as per usual, it's really brought up more questions than answers. That's it. We'll hit the pause button for now. We'll take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping, and we will pick up here next time. As we check out these branching paths, finish up our business here in the Grove, and then, I guess, set our sights on those ruins to the east. We should also really track down Lae'zel at some point. She's got to be hanging around here somewhere.
It's my job too.
See you then.
The druids don't care about us. No one does.
Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible. Including but not limited to Revenant, Alois, CrowkingLoR, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, V23, EgonAlter, Emile, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Rowan Church, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you could even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Please, don't mind me. I'll just watch.